So these are 10 questions that are going to clarify your calling. So answer these questions to discover the real you. Hey beautiful, today's episode is a little bit different because it's not just about listening, it's about answering questions that are going to clarify your story, your brand, your calling, and your fire, and hopefully some joy. So grab a journal, and hopefully you're not driving. Find a quiet space and give yourself the gift of reflection. Let's go deeper together. Here are 10 questions that have actually helped me build a life and a brand that people will remember. So I'm actually going to answer these for you. So you're welcome to go. There is a worksheet which you can download in the story notes. So please subscribe and grab that worksheet. But I'm actually going to answer these questions just to give you a bit of a vibe about how this has flowed for me. So question 1 is, what was the moment, Bonnie, that you knew your life was meant to spark joy and create transformation? So I would say that this really started stirring for me in 2017. I had left my real estate career, and I was a bit lost really, and I ended up getting this job working in world development for a not-for-profit, and it was actually fundraising for high capacity, high potential donors who would donate $800,000 for a project, or they were big donations. But during that time, I just actually felt a mismatch in that job that I was doing. And I also started having some encounters with God, actually, where He was revealing my calling in terms of dreams. And I would have people pray for me. And one of the dreams that I want to share with you is, I had a dream my mum had given me a set of keys, and they were old ancient keys, and in the dream she said, Bonnie, these are for you. And I was kind of sitting at a table, and she said, I want you to sell them for $7 and $47. Now at the time, I've always been really good at recording my dreams and kind of tracking them, because God often speaks to me through my dreams. And but it wasn't probably for maybe until COVID, that I was reviewing that dream. And as I became aware of the online business and the way coaching is done online, quite often offers are sold for $7, $47, $97, $997. It's always the $7 or $47 kind of price range, and that was exactly what happened in my dream. And so this is, it was a weaving together of all these different aspects that were being revealed to me at the time. And it was really uncomfortable, because it meant that I would have to take a huge detour, basically burn the bridges or walk away from, all the career that I had built up was not in personal development. It was not an online business, but I definitely felt like that I was having, my life experience, and, what I'd been trained for in life was about to be transitioned into something new. So that was, it wasn't really just one moment. The dream definitely was impactful once I realized, oh my goodness, there is just no way that I could have a dream years before I ever even knew that there were offers online for $7 and $47. It's not a coincidence that, I was called to do this. And I had other people start saying, are you a life coach? Are you a business coach? Do you do online business? Do you communicate? Do you host? There was so much confirmation everywhere that I went that this is actually something that I needed to step into and rise up and answer this calling, to be somebody, to be a light, to be someone who would invite other people to actually answer their calling and clarify their whole life story, and to see how that weaves into a new career even. So, second question, what specific breakthrough, encounter or season helped shape the woman you are today? So, in answering this question, again, it definitely wasn't just like one breakthrough or encounter, but I would say it's been a 7-year transition as I've had to release and, my old career, my old relationship, even geographically where I live, and let all these things go so that I could step into a new season, which is that, I was actually being called to use my voice and to no longer be behind, a corporate brand, or, when you work for a company, whether it's a franchise or you're in corporate or you're an employee, you sign an employment contract with your name that you'll represent that company. And so, one of the encounters I had is I was out walking one day, probably in like 2018, it's a long time ago, and I was kind of talking to God, and I was like, what am I going to do for my career next? Like, I'm kind of in this in between. And I had this vision of a white business card, and the business card was just completely white, and on it was written my name and just my phone number, 021-343-407. And then I thought, okay, that's interesting. Who do I work for, God? That's obviously like a business card. And then I heard God say, it was almost like it got drilled on, like written by the finger of God onto the card. It said God. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's hilarious. God's going to be my boss. Yeah, and that is, was probably like the opening of the door into that season of trusting God into a new way of being, really, and into a brand new life of trusting Him for my provision, for how finances came to me, and of seeing a whole lot of things shift and change in my life. So, I've held that up a lot. I've thought about it a lot, this idea that I work for God. And actually, I had a friend from America who messaged me, and they said, be prepared that God's going to use you in new ways that might be unfamiliar. And, just confirming again that actually I wasn't going to be working for man, and that I was going to be being directed by God, working for God. Hilarious. Yeah, and so God's got a pretty funny sense of humour, that He was inviting me into a partnership where I wasn't going to be working for man anymore, but that I would be in partnership and working for God. And do you know what happens when you have a boss or you're employed by a company? They pay your wages, don't they? Your provision comes through that company. So if you currently work in a business, whatever your job is, maybe you have a business card, or if you were to get that business card out now and have a look, it's probably got the name of the company on it, your name and your phone number, and it all changed. I no longer was working for a man, I was working for God. So who were you before the pivot? What were my patterns? So who was I before the pivot? What were my patterns, my pain points, or limiting beliefs? So I lived geographically in the same suburb from, what was it? It was about 16, no, it might have been 20 years. For a long time, I was geographically on the same street. I lived in 3 different houses in the very same neighborhood. I moved in and out of a house that I owned 3 times during that period. I was completely geographically, my pattern was that I was locked into that area. The other thing, my pain point, is that I just had this hunger inside of me that I wanted more. I've always wanted to travel. I've always had it in the back of my mind that I wanted to speak, but there was absolutely no place for me where I could do that, apart from in my role. Obviously, I would, host auctions. Well, I'd be hosting my vendors and open homes and different things that I was doing in business. But in terms of actually speaking, there was just like this feeling that I wasn't really living my calling, or living my essence. And one of the limiting beliefs that I had was that it was fixed, it was too late, that this was now my life, really. I had children, I was married, I was in my 30s, and my career was kind of set. I remember I would look at some of the really successful real estate agents that I work with, who are these phenomenal women who were, hugely successful in writing, 7-8 figures a year in income, who, I often would go into, and compete against with business and win listings and things like that. But I would look at their faces, and they were, they were quite old, actually. They were probably, I should be careful saying this, but, they were in their 60s, or, they were they'd been in their career for a long time. And so my limiting belief is that I would, think that I could change, and maybe that was going to be me in the future, which would be wonderful, being, I don't know, maybe being successful as a real estate agent. But I don't think that's really what I wanted to do. And so my limiting belief would be thinking that, I remember a friend was renovating a house, and then she sold it, and then she told me that she was about to have the whole year off work and not work at all. And, because she didn't need to financially. And I just remember thinking at the time, gosh, all I could have off would be 2 weeks. That was my limiting belief, was that I believed that I could only survive for 2 weeks without a job. And what I found out is that was a limiting belief, because with God, I ended up being led into a season where I didn't work for a man or for a job for 6 years, for a long, long time, but it's because I had this new directive. What do your clients say? What do your clients say, Bonnie, happens when they work with you? When people work with me, that they tap into my belief system. They tap into my belief system of possibility, of what's possible for them. And it's almost like, if you imagine an umbrella, that is what happens. I invite them in under the umbrella of possibility, of belief, of faith, that they can step into something they've never experienced before. And even if they don't, have that belief system or the demonstration or evidence of that happening in their own life, that my clients can come in under my umbrella and experience some of that favor and some of that new ability to be able to crack open and see their whole existence in their life, and their potential in a fresh new way. They can see differently. What's a non-negotiable value what is a non-negotiable value that you carry into every part of your life and business? So I have definitely gone really deep onto my values and the things that I value, and the non-negotiable would be fun. So, and that's deeply personal, but if it's not fun, then it's not worth it for me. So I want fun to be something that I cultivate, whether I'm, making money, or if I'm writing, I'm being creative, I'm parenting, I'm taking care of myself, I'm interacting with other people, I'm traveling, I'm praying. I want the fun to, that fun atmosphere, because I feel like that is that whole spark joy thing of, why I've created this podcast, is that fun is, it's basically joy, really. It just creates that atmosphere, and it shifts things, and it's basically like, fun is the oil and the lubricant. If it's all too serious, it's not very fun. What do I see in others that they often can't see for themselves? I can very, very easily see people's potential, and, what they could do or be, or also identify, I can talk to somebody for a very short amount of time and hear their story, hear their life experience, what life has trained them in, and be able to really have the wisdom to know how to tap into the key areas that would bring the most profit to their life, financially, physically, emotionally, spiritually, all these different areas, to kind of unlock them into something that they haven't been able to, access or see before. So it's like being able to present somebody a picture and say, do you know that you've got all these ingredients right now to do, X, Y, Z? But, it's a bit like when you're playing Scrabble and people, you have all the letters there. But if somebody knows how to put those letters together, you could win. And it's quite funny because I love the meaning of names, and my name Bonnie in Latin means bonus. So I like to think that, with my life work and what I do and how, how I see in others what they can't see for themselves, that I'm the bonus ball, and help, kind of throw that into the mix so that they can hit the jackpot in life too. Question 7. What has God told you about your voice, your influence, and your anointing? Well, luckily I've got a really awesome relationship with God, and He, ever since I was a little girl, has always, talked about my voice, that He loves my voice, He loves to hear my voice, and and that He wanted to use my voice to break chains off people, to bring freedom to others, to speak truth, to straighten out crooked ways in people's lives. And, and I think the other thing is just He's really also confirmed my the way He's put me together, is not an accident or a mistake, and that there's, the way God has pieced me all together, I don't know how to say it, and the anointing that's on my life is for a specific purpose, and it's actually not for me. What the gifts and what God gives us is to be used for others. That's where we get the greatest pleasure, by being able to use our anointing and our gifts and our voice and our influence to help other people. Question 8. What legacy, Bonnie, do you want your life's work to leave? What do I like? This will be cool. It'll be really cool if they play this like in an interview, maybe when I'm like 88. Imagine that they find this video. Hello, I'm 44 right now, so it's in 44 years. That's a long time. I mean, it's funny because I asked a boyfriend once, I said, what legacy do you want your life's work to leave? And he shut it down and said he has no interest in legacy and he doesn't want to leave one, which is very negative. Maybe not the right boyfriend for me. But what legacy do you want your life's work to leave? I haven't really answered that. I would like to be able to build out tangible properties, which, whether it's like creating beautiful properties or experiences, retreats, meetings, shows, art, fashion. I'd love to create a foundation. I'd like to have some of the outworking of my heart and actually have that displayed in the earth, like tangible, where you're like, Bonnie made that or something. What fire are you here to light in others that changes generations? Well, I think, I think my life work will definitely have deliverance in it and setting people free from what kind of holds them back, because I've, personally had to walk through deliverance, and I've had a lot of negative, dark forces like the enemy and Satan or the devil, whatever, where I can feel evil in the room or feel the demonic. I've even once, I had a friend and I saw 6 suicide spirits, like they were demons from hell. They actually come from hell to kind of hang out and wait for him to take him there. It was really scary. I mean, I wasn't scared. I was like looking at them, but it's scary that they were coming after him, and he was in bed and he was like suicidal. It was crazy, out of the blue. But I could see them. So I think coming back to this, what fire am I here to light in others that would change generations? I would like to train up other people to be able to see in the spirit and be able to see, perceive and see with the eyes of their heart and spirit, to know the difference between good and bad, light and darkness, because darkness is, definitely something that is real. And question 10, what lie or old identity did you have to break up with to walk in the fullness that you carry now? So I have had to really walk away. And it's funny, when God began this process, I remember back in 2015 being at church, and I thought, I won't put too much stuff up on social media about my faith. It was just kind of like all these walls and ideas and protection. I just didn't know how to fully be display my true heart, because I was so afraid of being rejected or misunderstood. And so I've really had to break up with the fear of man, that I'm not afraid of what people think of me. Like, sometimes my daughters are like, are you not embarrassed, like, if I do something? I'm like, no, I don't care. And also people pleasing, if I don't want to do it, I'll just say no, I don't want to do that. And so I think that's tied up with me finding my voice, and not identifying as a victim, and not identifying as somebody, I want to be a badass. I want to be able to take vision and actually, grow that vision into something tangible that benefits other people. So I've had to really walk away from my whole old identity. I'm no longer Bonnie Calderwood, which is, it's my childhood name. And I've had to, break up with having to control my own career and just step into the unknown and trust God that He was going to make a way for me where it seems like there's no way. I've got no experience. You've called me to this, and just a lot of uncertainty and fear, but that God has been faithful for me to step into these really shoes that have felt way too big for me, that I'm not even prepared for this walk. It all feels a bit clumsy, but I've had to break up with just wanting to trust in my own ability, and trust that if I open my mouth, that the right stuff's going to come out, and that it would touch someone's heart. And I think this authenticity and just speaking from my heart and from my life experience, and I've got a deep desire to see other people, create cash flow and business based around what life's trained them in and what they've been trained at best, and platform that to benefit other people. And so that's what I'm an expert at, being able to look at people's stories. I mean, you could send me, I encourage you, just download the framework below, please work through it. And then I want you to record it into an audio, or you could just send it to me on direct messages. And I want to hear, what has life trained you at the best? Because you can use that as a platform to be able to benefit and help other people, and actually get paid for it, and create, a system where people will be coming to you as an expert, because you're an expert. You've lived it. You don't need another training. You've just done, 30 years. Your life has trained you in this specific thing, or it might be, one or two things. But we're going to isolate it down and get that clarity around your life story, your life experience, your personal testimony, and how that can, it's like confetti. If we can get it, when you get confetti and it's in the little container and then you throw it at a wedding and it all comes out colourful, your life experience, the whole sum of your life, everything that you've walked through so far in your career, business, family, your upbringing, all of it has a scent, all of it has a story. Yeah. Anyway, I hope this has been helpful today. This is the Spark Joy podcast, and I've really enjoyed answering some of these questions. So I hope these questions have stirred up things in your own story as you think back, and give you, just some ideas about how you can use this framework. So these aren't just branding questions. The questions that I've read out today and been trying to truthfully answer, they're identity questions. And so when we look at your whole life story, your personal testimony, what life's throwing you at, what is your true identity? And, what does that reveal? And why were you born for a time such as this? So we're going to take your answers and speak them out, and then we're going to build from there. Send me a message. I'm Bonnie Brown.